Hey, what's up, you absolute legend? Welcome to Own Your Time, a training dedicated to help you not only unlock your success in 2025, but also to help you step into a brand new year owning your time instead of trying to manage your time. Okay. And the idea behind all of this is that you can actually set yourself up to live in a high performance state as much as you possibly can. So the idea behind all of this is to help you unlock peak performance in whatever area that you want, but also in your life as a whole. Okay. Today we're going to focus on transforming how you approach your time. We're going to help you shift from simply just managing your tasks and being a little bit reactive to fully owning your time and energy. So by the end of this training, you're going to have a clear plan on how to identify what might be in your way, what might be stopping you, whether that's some beliefs or mindsets, and help you reprioritize so you can actually understand what it means to own your time rather than manage it. We're going to help you then with strategies in order to put things in place to protect your time, and then also overcome any obstacles that you might have when it comes to time ownership. So let's dive in. So, like I said, own your time. I want to dive straight into this by asking you a very quick question, okay? What does high performance feel like to you? Not look like, feel like. Okay? If you were to know that you could have high performance, what would that actually feel like for you? I want you to spend 2 minutes on this. So pause this video and give this the time and energy that it needs in terms of getting that clarity. Like, what does that actually look like for you? And the reason why I'm starting with this is because high performance looks and feels different for each individual. I've come across so many people in my line of work, and no two people have ever really said the same thing when it comes to what high performance means to them. And that's actually a really good thing. Because if we try to pigeonhole you into this is what high performance looks like and this is what it should be like for you, we're actually leaving a lot of your potential on the table because we're not getting or taking the time to understand what it actually looks like for you, the individual, for you, the human. So spend 2 to 3 minutes on this and jotting down the answers of like, what does it actually feel like for you? Maybe it feels like you have energy or clarity, or you're able to focus a little bit more. Maybe it means you can switch between tasks more easily and more readily. Maybe it means that you feel more regulated. What does it actually feel like? Maybe it feels like peace, that you're not constantly overwhelmed or constantly fighting fires. Like, what does it actually feel like for you? So pause this video and give that time, but I'm going to fly through the next couple of questions. Then what we want to do is, the next question I want to ask you is, if you could fully own your time, what would change in your life? Just give this 2 minutes. Like, if you could fully own your time, what would actually change? Pause this video and write the answer again. Maybe it's around the idea of, well, I would do, a lot of stuff for my health that I'm neglecting, or if I could fully own my time, I would be spending it over here instead of in these tasks over here. Getting clarity of this question of if you could fully own your time, what would change, gives you the idea of what you're going to be working towards in the future when you can actually own your time rather than consistently manage it on a daily basis. It actually gives you the roadmap of what it actually looks like and what we need to work on. The third question is, when you answer those two questions, what's currently standing in your way? What's currently in the way of you being able to own your time, fully live the life that you want to live? What's currently standing in your way? I'll give you a little hint. It might be you. Now, you might think it might be a multitude of different things. It might be that you don't have much control over your work. It might be that you have too much control over your work. It might be that you have kids and you're trying to juggle that alongside your professional career. It might be within your career, whether it's your own business or working for somebody else, you feel like you're not actually in control of your time whatsoever. You feel very reactive. You might have a multitude of different objections or reasons that might come up, but I want you to really look at them, because the answer that I gave at the start of like what's currently standing in your way, and it might be you, is our approach to how we see those things, our approach to how we communicate within those situations, and it's our approach on how we actually, I suppose, accept whether that's just the way things are going to be, or whether we take the time and the ownership to be like, hold on a second, I can actually do something about this. So what is currently standing in your way? Now, flying through this again, what I want to spend some time on, let me just move myself so slightly here. What I want to spend some time on is a little bit of difference between what does it mean to manage your time versus own your time? Because a lot of what you'll see on social media right now, what you'll see in terms of when it comes to high performance, is time management. And what's the difference between time management and time ownership? So when I think of time ownership, one of the things that I want you to think about is I am fully in control of my time and energy, okay? But I want to give you the difference between the two. I'm going to battle with a bit of sunlight here, so apologies if I have this glow about me as I write. Managing your time, what does that actually mean? I'm going to say that managing our time leaves us slightly more reactive. It puts us on the back foot. We're kind of like fighting fires rather than actually being in control of our time. We are very task orientated, right? So we are maybe overwhelmed a little bit more because things come in ad hoc and we need to fight that fire. And I guess the whole approach of managing your time means fitting things in. Okay? And that's the approach, fitting things in. So this type of approach I see time and time again lead to so much burnout and a decrease in our mental performance because we have such a the word that I want to use is maybe fragmented focus. So our focus is here, our focus is there, our focus is up here, it's down here. It's in all the different things, and we can't actually focus on the things that matter when it matters, right? And that's what it means to manage our time rather than own our time. And I want you to take that statement of fitting things in. Where am I fitting things in when I could be taking more ownership of it? So an example of that is if you feel like you don't have any control over your work schedule, whether you work for someone else or yourself, what will happen is you're going to try and fit your life and your health and your connection and different bits and pieces into that, right? So that's where you're consistently trying to fit things in. One of the biggest things that I hear from a lot of my high performing clients is when they start working with me first is my diary is so meticulously fit together and managed that if something is to happen or something needs my attention, or for example, my kids get sick, everything is fucked. Right? And the overwhelm that that causes and the burnout that that causes on a nervous system level and on a psychological level and an emotional level as well is chronic because you're basically living in survival because you are consistently like looking over your shoulder, hoping things don't go any way wrong because you don't have the flexibility that if it was to happen, everything is fucked. That's you managing your time. So the question that is a really good kind of question to identify whether you're owning your time versus managing your time is if you find that your diary is so meticulously planned that if there was an error, if there was a need for a little bit more flexibility or there was a need to switch things up, do you actually have that flexibility? Do you have the space, or will that completely fuck up your week? Right? That's you owning your time or managing your time, sorry. So when we come across to owning your time, what does that actually look like and what is it different, right? The first word that comes to mind is we're a bit more proactive. Okay? It's energy driven and we have an energy focus behind that as well, and values is what's leading the charge. Okay? There's also a great sense of alignment. And what I will always say to this is it's simplified. Right? We don't have a million tasks on our diary for the sake of feeling busy, right? We're taking intentional action that is aligned with our goals and really looking at what are the simple tasks that I need to get done to make sure that I can prioritize owning my time and having the flexibility when I need it. Okay. So managing your time is about survival. If I was to write survival over here, and owning your time, and the big difference between the two is this is where you flip and thrive, right? I want you to be able to have flexibility of your time through owning your time. Because if something is to come up, you don't want to be fighting fires. You want to know that I can switch this to this, and I know that I have the time and the flexibility to do that, right? So you might be thinking, if you don't own your business, you might be thinking, well, that's okay for you. What if you work a 9 to 5? Or you're on someone else's time? I mean, there's two questions to ask there. Is that the life that you want to be living on someone else's time? Because if not, you can definitely make a change. And then B, how do you communicate that a little bit more? How can you effectively say that my performance will be enhanced if I can work in this particular way, if I can have a little bit more flexibility? Where are you taking on things that aren't yours because you feel like you have to within your working environment? How can you protect that and own that and communicate that as best as you possibly can, with a reflection back to I can get more things done and I can perform at a higher level for your company, for your business, for your team, if I can maybe have a little bit more flexibility to approach my work this way, and trial it, ask for it, advocate for it. And then the question comes back to is if you can't get what you need, are you willing then to change that up? Are you willing then to seek out a different space that gives you a little bit more freedom, that allows you to thrive? Because no matter where you are, no matter what you do, whether it's working for yourself or somebody else, you always have options. You always have that. But this is a little assessment of, do you have what you need within how you're working and where you're working? So there are some questions to ask. And when we come back into this, there's like I suppose a simple framework, okay? So a simple framework that is aligned with, I guess, owning your time. And I'm going to talk about that now. And the first step of that is clarity. So the first step in creating clarity is understanding what are your non-negotiables. What are the things that you, I guess, want to take more ownership of, right? Define your non-negotiables. So if I was to write this here, so what we're going to do is we're going to define your non-negotiables. And I like to break them up into 3 different sections. We have our health, we have our human, and we have our business or career. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, defining your non-negotiables and how we simplify our time, right? When we're looking at our non-negotiables, we want to understand is, what are the things that I need to prioritize and what are the big rocks? Health, human, business, okay? And slash career. Health is the things that you do to help you perform at a higher level. So it will be your movement, it will be your recovery, it will be your rest, your absolute working time. It will be getting outside. It will be all of the things that you do that help you thrive, that help you feel like you. Human comes into the equation because it's like connections. Who do you want to connect with? How do you bring more enjoyment, more fun, more ease? Are you prioritizing the people that matter? Because so very often I see people think that they're managing their time, but actually what they're doing is managing everybody else's time. And as a result of that, what happens is they don't get time for the people that matter in their lives. And relationships break down, relationships get fractured, and there's a lot of rebuilding in that when people come to me. So this is why we take these 3 key areas: health, human, and business. And the idea behind this is health is the foundation. It's number 1. Okay, if you don't have your health, you have absolutely nothing. Okay, and you've had periods of your life where you've probably been like, Jesus, my health isn't where it needs to be, and your human and your business or career has suffered, right? There's no surprise in that. Health is the foundation of everything that we do. So what I want you to think about is, what are the daily non-negotiables or weekly non-negotiables that allow me to prioritize my health, my human, and my business? What does that actually look like? Put them on pen to paper and really start to understand what that actually looks like, okay? The next thing that we are going to do is, once we have our priorities, okay, and we have our non-negotiables, but we've priority sets and we've the clarity got, the next thing that we're going to work towards is, how do I create space for that? Okay, now what I want you to do is get a calendar, and what you're going to do is start creating time blocks specifically for no longer than 90 minutes. Okay, and then we're going to prioritize a 15-minute recovery period. So let me move this over here slightly, sorry. So then we're going to have 15 minutes and 90 minutes and 15 minutes as a recovery block. That's a little break, a little walk outside, just a switch between tasks that you're not going from one thing to the next, okay? But what I want you to do is, when you're thinking about planning in, right, this is where we actually start to own our time. This is where we start to put it in the diary, okay? And that will involve our calendar. And what are we time blocking for? So you're going to have a time block for your health, you're going to have a time block for your human, and you're going to have a time block for your business slash career, okay? I'll do a deeper dive into what that actually looks like and a visual behind that in a little while. But ultimately, we're going to start putting it into the calendar, and we're going to start understanding that when you're a high-performing individual, one of the things that you need to understand, and I see this time and time again, not just in my own life, but in the people that I serve and work with, is, if it's not in the calendar, it doesn't happen. If it's not in the calendar, it doesn't happen. And that's therefore a lot of what we are often governed by when it comes to performance or business or work. We will put all of that stuff into the calendar, and that's the thing that takes over, without understanding what are my other boundaries around health and around my human, and where am I not willing to go over those boundaries. And that comes into step number 3 when it comes to owning our time, is protection, is setting up the boundaries, right? And how do I communicate that? So this is where boundaries and communication happen. And this happens on 2 aspects, okay? And this is whether you work for someone else or whether you work for yourself. Now that you've got clarity of what your priorities are and you've blocked it into the calendar, that's the only first two steps. Okay, so we've started to own our time, but to really take full ownership, okay, is creating the boundaries that are needed um, to make sure that you can follow through. Okay, this is essentially setting up your environment and protecting your environment. Okay, and what that actually looks like is if I have a boundary set in place that I need to have a deep work block from whatever time to whatever time, okay, and I work from home, but I also, the kids are at home and my wife is at home, I need to communicate that. I can't expect her to effectively just abide by my calendar as well. I need to communicate that, right? And communication is the often thing that's missed. Okay? If you are prioritizing your health and you know that it's going to take up a little bit more of your time, but you want to own it and protect it, how do you communicate it to the people around you? What does that actually look like? So, the boundaries is the protecting, the boundaries is the space that you're going to create for it, and the things that you're not going to let in instead of it. It's almost like the rules that you're going to live by, even though I hate really talking about rules. But really, what you're going to look at then is how do I communicate and who do I need to communicate that to? That could be a partner, husband, wife, friends. It could be your colleagues in work. It could be your boss. Who do you need to communicate it to? And what is the best possible way of communicating that? And then we're going to look at all of that is essentially what we're looking for is optimizing for energy. Okay? A lot of people, and you've probably heard this before, is it's not time management, it's energy management. And I fully believe in that. Okay? Performance isn't about how much time you have, it's how you use your energy within that time. Okay? So, for example, the reason that this is like the top of this is when we start taking control over these three areas here, you will see a dramatic increase in your energy, in your focus, and in your regulation and your ability to regulate. And energy and capacity go hand in hand, right? And this is the ability to be able to do work more efficiently and effectively. Efficient is how quick and slow things take you, the time in which things take you, and effective is how effective you are within that time. So when we think about performance, a lot of people try and manage their time to try and fit everything in. I get my clients to manage their energy. The reason why energy is so important is because if we can be more effective and efficient, we need to expend less energy. But we can only have energy when we prioritize these blocks here. And that's a fact, right? So really when we look at this is high performance, in my opinion, is not doing all of the things all of the time. It's knowing how to prioritize the things that actually are going to move the needle, things that actually need your attention, and the things that are draining your energy, your time, and your attention. But when you start to prioritize that and own that, what will happen is you'll become more focused, right? Becoming more focused means you have increased energy. Having increased energy is you get more done in less time and you can be more effective and efficient. This is you at the top of your game. This is actually high performance. Right? We don't prioritize anything here. You'll only have performance. You'll be doing for the sake of doing, and you'll be doing, I suppose, multitude of different things that won't be aligned. You're just doing it for the sake of being busy. So, the thing that I also wanted to cover, and I'm just conscious of time, so if I'm speaking too fast, put me on 0.5 speed. Slow me down. A couple of objections that I will hear time and time and time again. Well, it's okay for you, you work for yourself, so you have more time. I work for someone else. I don't control my schedule. You might not control your work hours, but you absolutely fundamentally can and are in control of what happens within and outside of them, okay? So what I mean by that is you have control of your mornings, you have control of your evenings, or whatever time of the day that you work for somebody else, you have control over that. Outside of that, you have control over whether you prioritize your health after or before work. You have control over how you prioritize your connections and your rest and your recovery. You have control over all that. But what tends to happen is we'll just put that big chunk of work block in. I'm working for someone else, and this just is just how it goes, forgetting that that's 8 or 9 hours of your day. Quick maths, take away 9 from 24. You have a lot more hours left. Prioritizing your sleep, take that away, but you've probably left with about between 4 to 6 hours a day that are yours, that you can fully control. That if you don't plan, if you don't put it into your calendar, you're not going to do much with them. Inside of work, when you're working for somebody else, you can actually create some boundaries within this. Where are you taking unnecessary tasks or meetings, or what's pulling and draining from your energy and performance, and how do you communicate that with who matters? Within work, you can still set your 90-minute work blocks and then therefore go out for your recovery periods where you can basically have those focused work bursts, and then go into a little bit of a recovery period where you take that time, but communicate it, metric it, right? So you do have control. Now, this one I put in because I used to say this. Sometimes I still do. Because for me, parenting is the priority, right? It is the priority. So for me, it's like I have kids, like my time isn't my own. And it's something that I want to acknowledge, because if you're either trying to build a business or working for someone else alongside parenting, it can feel like you don't have any time to yourself. And I get that, right? And I get that so much because, Jesus, what time were we, this 3rd of January? Literally a week ago, I sat at the kitchen table and I cried because I was like, oh my God, I'm so dysregulated. That night didn't go the way I intended it to go, and it was tough. And sometimes there's a multitude of those nights. Parenting is the priority, but owning your time means aligning your schedule with your family's needs and your own, right? So 2 big things that work for me in all of this is involving the girls in as much of the other priorities as I can. So for example, luckily for us, and I say luckily because not everybody has that, we have a gym in the garage, a small little makeshift gym. I bring May in there with me. She's her own little stack of toys, and we both enjoy that, and we both have time. If I need to get out walking, I'll do my best when it's not absolutely ferociously pouring rain, which it normally is, unfortunately. I will take the girls with me on a hike. One will be in the sling, one will be in the buggy. Sometimes Paula and I will go together. We have kids each. Involving them in your routines, allowing them to be part of cooking dinner, allowing them to be part of the chores, like involve them, communicate with them. May just wants to spend time with us, and May just wants to be involved, and she wants to learn, right? Don't use your kids as an excuse as to why you can't, because that's you taking no ownership of your time. Kids need routine. Kids need leadership. Be the leader in that. And this is where the flexibility comes in. Flexible work blocks or flexible blocks for your health, human, and business that allow you to adapt. And what I mean by that is you can still prioritize for flexibility in your work and life schedule. So when you're looking at that, and if you have kids, is you know full well that some nights are going to be absolutely great and some nights are not, right? We need to plan for that flexibility. I'll show you my diary in a minute of what that actually looks like. But when we're looking at this, is the idea behind this is, now that I've involved them into my routine, I can make more of an effort and an intention to do the things that I know that I also need to get done and involve them too. And that also enhances connection. But then B is looking at, do I actually have the time, right? Where I can be flexible, or is my schedule too rigid? So if they need me and something is to happen, do I have that time? And if not, what is the thing that's getting in the way of that? And how can I communicate that? And how can I set up a boundary for that? The other one is, I'm always busy. Busyness, to me, when I hear this, all I hear is that you don't have your priorities clear. They're just not clear to you, right? I want you then, for the sake of I'm always busy, or then the following on one from this that I'll always get is I never have time. I don't have enough time. In this, what I want you to conduct is what's called a time audit, okay? Where you're going to, for a week, for 7 days, track everything that you do at your time. Sounds a bit like, oh my God, Kira, why are you asking me to do this? But every time I ask my clients to do this, particularly the ones that tell me that they're busy, they will always find that they have 5, 6, 7, 8 hours within their week that they're not utilizing or harnessing. If you don't conduct that time audit and you just allow yourself to be busy, you will always be busy. You will always be performing, but you won't be high performing. Conduct that time audit. If you find yourself saying, I'm always busy or I never have time, there is time there. We just need to understand where it is and how we harness it. And then life is too unpredictable. I put this in at the end because I think I was thinking of myself in this situation, and I just put it in case anybody else is in that same situation. Life for me can be unpredictable for two reasons. A, I've got kids, but B, a lot of the work that I do involves other people, right? So in some senses, I need to have a little bit of unpredictability and variety within that. But I go back to what happens when life is unpredictable. There is still moments where we can control our time and set our boundaries. And within that space, the communication piece is the most monumental piece. And I will do a training separately on that and how we communicate more effectively and efficiently for the things that matter and what matters to us. But communication is massive. If things are unpredictable, the thing that I practice the most is acceptance. So I'll give you an example of how things are unpredictable. Last night, I was solo parenting in the evening because Paul is back to work. So from 3 p.m. up until obviously bedtime for the girls, it was obviously focus time with me and Maggie. I had Maggie down at 6:30 for bed, and I was like, yes, okay, we're going good. And May was asleep by about 7:45. I came downstairs, made myself a cup of tea, went into the sitting room, took out my journal, took out my laptop, and was like, I'm going to get the things that I wanted to get done, and things are going to be great. And then all hell broke loose. Maggie woke up, May woke up, and then two kids are up. And then I realised I was sitting at the counter in the kitchen at 9:30. I was like, oh, this hasn't gone the way I planned. But I had two options in that. I could be like completely dysregulated and try and force them back into bed and try and like get the expectations of things were meant to be this way and now they're not, and this is my reality now, and get frustrated. Or I could accept the fact that, as May says, it was a tricky night and just prioritize that in the moment. Accept that actually I'm not going to get work done tonight. I'm not going to get my journal done tonight. But I got it done this morning, first thing. Right? The more we push against the things that are actually happening in reality right now, the harder we make things. And I'll credit Garrett Timmons for this. It's how do we get to a space of acceptance quicker? When things are gone tits up and life is unpredictable and something has happened to cause a little bit of chaos, how do I come to acceptance quicker? How do I accept what's happening right now and then make a decision from here? Not from where it's meant to be, not from where I hoped it to be, not from the expectations that I had, from right here, right now, with what's happening. Because I know if I was to resist that and I was to push that and I was to push the kids into bed even though they didn't want to, and I would have caused even more havoc because I've tried that before. It didn't work. So acceptance is huge. Okay? Now, I'm conscious of time. I want to keep these under. I was going to say a half an hour, but I looked at the clock. It's 28 minutes, so I'll do my best to finish this up very quickly. The last step of all of this is to own your calendar. Owning your time, owning your energy means actually owning your calendar. I wanted to give an example of what mine actually looks like. Everything in red you'll see as a client call. Everything in purple has got to do with family, except for these two here that I didn't change. Everything at the top here is my training. This is my recovery. This is a very brief example of what next week is going to look like for me. Now, you will see that I have time free here, some bits here and here. This here, if I have time here, this is where I usually take my breaks in terms of walking or a little bit of downtime, a little bit of recovery, a little bit of breathing space. This workbook here is where I set up deep work for the week. So this is where podcast gets recorded, any planning. That kicks me off straight away. This is my training. And I'll probably do a training block here as well. On a Sunday, I allow Sundays to be a bit more free and flexible, but I'll always prioritize a training, whether that's a longer, more intensive hike, or whether it's a training block, like actually going out to the gym and training for an hour. Within this space, all of the time here, I will get my walks with the girls in, or we'll do a hike, or we might swim. So there's always some movement there as well where I'm involving them as well. But what you'll see here is, show me your calendar and I will see your priorities. I say that all the time. Open up your calendar right now and let me see your priorities. Most people only have the work put into their calendar. Hopefully when you look at this calendar, you'll see I prioritize my health. You'll see I prioritize my family, which is my human. You'll see I prioritize my rest and recovery and fun. That's at the weekends here, and I have some sprinkled in here as well. You'll see I prioritize my downtime and my reflection. And then prioritize work. It's me owning my time, but I also have flexibility. So if something is to happen here, I have space here, I have space here, I have space here. I'm flexible. I have flexibility. So what that actually means, if a client needs to cancel or change, that I have space for that I can make that happen for them if I want to on my time. All right. So owning your calendar is so important. Now, last but not least, I wanted to put this in. There's 2 more slides, but I wanted to put this in. High performance is a cycle of focused effort and intentional recovery. Where most people fall down is they forget about this bit. They leave that bit out. So high performance is a cycle of focused effort. Those 90-minute blocks, let's fucking go ham because I have the energy and I'm going to intensify it. But if you keep taking your energy for granted and not intentionally recovering and recharging it, you're missing a key monumental part of high performance. You'll just be performing. Performance is a cycle of focused effort. High performance is a cycle of focused effort and intentional recovery. Just bear that in mind. Okay? Where are you pushing yourself and taking it for granted to know that you'll still have energy? Where you're burning yourself out when you don't need to. Right? And then some tools to help. I don't know why it always does this at the end for me. So tools to help. Here's the ones I've implemented. My calendar, as you see above, is Use Motion. I'll do a separate training on that, but that's my calendar app. That allows me to have flexibility, allows me to set up projects, and it will dedicate tasks. So it acts as my virtual assistant. I swear by it. Absolutely love it. It is a paid one. I think it's $19 a month, I think. 1 sec is a little interruption. So if you're prone to doom scrolling, it interrupts the doom scroll. And it offers breath work. So you have to take a 60-second breath. And then you have a choice of actually going into the app or not. And I think it saves me on average about 5 hours a week so far. App block is completely blocking things off. So it's just more of, these are the protection things. So these protect your time. And these are the things, whether it's your Google Calendar or your own calendar. That's the planning part, okay? Try these tools out. Try the strategies out. Start protecting your time. Start planning your time. And then start metricing it, right? Measure it. Do I feel like I am getting more done because I've planned it and I've protected my time and I've communicated that, or not? And if not, how can we fine tune and enhance? And if yes, let's keep going. So I hope this helped. And this is series 1, session 1, episode 1 of a whole new series where I'm going to give you the how-tos behind the biggest challenges that high performance face. And we shall go from there. I hope this helped. If it did, please do let me know. If you have any questions, please do ask. You'll find me on all available platforms. I'm most active on Instagram, so you can find me there. But I'll see you very soon.